I'm excited to be with you today because I am the Kansas Studies Institute Director at JCCC. And right now, Hong's collection is in the Kansas Focus Gallery. And if you visit the Nerman, you can see Hong's art in that wonderful gallery. It's right by the entrance to the museum. You can even see it before you walk in the museum. And I encourage all of you to come and visit our museum and see Hong's wonderful works. So to start off, because we can't be in the museum today, Hong is going to start off with some introductory slides and some context about her work. After that, I will commence with questions, and then after that, we will have time for audience questions. So feel free to put your questions in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and you can enter them in there at any time, and we will try to comb through those after we get done with the main program. So Hong, if you would like to share some slides with us and give us some wonderful examples of your work, we'd love to see them.
First, I wanted to just show you some slides. You can see the practice of my work, both in China and in the US, and give you a little background information about myself. I was born in Shenyang, a capital city of Liaoning province during the Cultural Revolution. Shenyang is a northeastern city in China to a family of artists. I have two sisters. Older sister Ling was born in the 60s after being single child for 8 years. My twin sister and I were born on the Chinese New Year during the Spring Festival. My middle name Chun meaning spring. My first name Hong meaning color red. So it's a very typical Cultural Revolutionary name for girls. Raised to a family of artists. Both my parents practiced and taught traditional Chinese fine style ink painting. My father on the left did the figurative ink painting. My mother does flowers and birds. My two sisters, older sister Ling, studied oil painting, and my twin sister also focused on printmaking in etching. At the age of 15, my twin sister and I passed the national exam, left hometown, went to the capital of China to the attached high school of Central Academy of Fine Arts, start our professional art training. Spent 4 years there studying in all the foundational courses. Then spent another 4 years at the academy focusing on Chinese figurative fine style ink medium. These are the example of my undergraduate study at the Central Academy of Fine Arts. Now I want to introduce you two different styles of Chinese ink painting. Freestyle on the left, done very fast, and working with rice paper that allows the ink and water to run. It has impressive, almost ink wash effect. The one on the right called freestyle, which I studied, is very time-consuming process. You have to draw the line and the color through many layers. So working with ink is unforgiving. Both styles require long time practice and training to better control with the medium. Here is an example of fine style ink painting process. Working with ink on rice paper is unforgiving. In other words, no mistakes are allowed. So following the precise making steps is crucial. First, you start out with the detailed pencil sketch, then transfer it onto rice paper. Then you use tiny brush to draw the ink line first. Then gradually applying the ink and color to many layers until you got correct value tones from lighter to darker. even though I developed solid foundations in painting at the Central Academy of Fine Arts, the art content was still very strict by the Chinese government. That's why 2 years later, after my undergraduate study in 1996, me and my twin sister came to the US with the help from my older sister who came here in the late 80s and made her home in the US. This is the first series I did when I first came here. It still has a gender, political, and overtones in this series. It reflects the joy and suffer felt by both my grandmother on the left, my mother, and my own generation of Chinese women during different period of time, still using traditional fine style ink medium on pretty small size. And this reflects my first experience came to America because these non-political correct subjects were not allowed to do when I was in China. That's why it became my immediate interest when I came here to do this series. I feel like I have to release my pressure being bound during the Chinese Cultural Revolution or under communist regime. This is another example of this series, but in this piece, I started introduce Western surrealistic reference in this piece, but still small, medium, and small size, traditional medium, small size. Then after I spent more time in the US, I started to see the difference between two cultures from my life experience, both in China and in the US. Still small size in this series. Instead of using traditional ink medium, I chose oil painting on canvas. It shows the cultural trading, party training from two cultures. Even though it's a still life paintings, but I also see them as a portraiture. Then the more time I live in the US, I became aware of my own cultural identity, started to think about who I am, where I come from. That leads to the question of, you know, my personal connection with my sisters, my own identity. That's how the hairpiece came from. Me and my twin sister always together from birth till we came to American together, never been separated. Always went to same elementary school, high school, college, all the way to here. Even though right now we live in different city, we still feel like the deeper connection. And we always have had long hair. You can see the left bottom picture. During the college, we played our black hair around the neck, make them look like two black scarves. So I wanted to use long hair as a metaphor, as a reference to our identities as individuals and as twins, but also as a metaphor to move something that beyond the hair. I was also looking at the Chinese cultural elements of door guards. They always came as a pair with the brave soldiers and hanging on each household to protect the family and ward off evil spirits, just like me and my twin sister, you know, always together, protect each other no matter what happens. And I adopted the Chinese traditional formats of scrolls to exaggerate the length of the piece, but also the flow of the long hair. So you don't know when it ends. this implies the continuation of the growing long hair. And when I showed this piece, the gallery was empty. My husband helped me to build the 2 panels, make them look like front entrance to show this piece. Once you walk into the room, you'll see another long one. So sometimes I feel like me and my twin sister are 2 separate individuals, just like the images on the wall. Sometimes we feel like unified, a single person on the floor. And for this series, I also wanted to use larger than life-size scale to transform this, 2-dimensional work on paper to a 3-dimensional sculpture effect. And the size also makes sense with the space. I intentionally drew the highlight at the curve between the wall and the floor. So it really makes sense with the space, and the viewer feel like they can walk into the piece. This is another portrait of 3 sisters, both all artists and all have long hair. The middle ones represents my older sister, who is like a supportive role, and the twins on each side. I was also looking at the triptych compositions from both Eastern and Western cultures in art. For example, this is a Mao's temples in the rural northwestern village. You have the high leaders in the middle, military and political intellectual advisors on both sides. This is the Tang Dynasty's Chinese religious sculptures. This is Renaissance sculptures. So there's a lot of similarities between the 2 culture reference. This is the largest charcoal on paper with the scrolls that I did. Long braids, this time represents a woman's life cycle from healthy, black, shiny hair at the early stage of life. Once reached to the middle life, your hair condition change. It becomes thinner, started losing hair, till you reach to the later life, your hair color changed to gray, eventually become white, just like a piece of paper. This is my dedication to my daughter, who also has a long hair and loves making art. So you'll see the tails, 2 tails connect together, and 2 heads kind of lean towards each other. It's a natural connection between a mother and a daughter. After I became mother, I thought about a lot my own mother. This a large fine style ink painting on Xuan paper is about my mother's life experience and hairstyle during the 60s, during the Cultural Revolution. Many women like my mom had the opportunity and freedom to choose her own husband, but they were caught up by the Cultural Revolution and many other political campaigns. So life was tough and hard during that time. Many artists have practiced with fine style ink painting, but on very small scale. This is me working with larger than life style, still using fine style medium. So it's very labor intense and challenging process. I'm glad that the Harvard Museum purchased this pair, and the curator from Harvard Museum sent me this piece, a young visitor connecting with my work. So hair is really universal. For series, hairy objects, also inspired by my everyday life experience. to me, when you see a long hair, it can be beautiful, but sometimes when you see hair in different settings, it can be very unattractive. I wanted to use a surrealism and humor to reveal something of hair that's with a different emotion and feeling. Start out with a graphite drawing, like the tool you saw in the first slide. Then translate into ink, fine style ink medium. And this is from my current series. Nature-inspired work. After I moved to Lawrence, I was very intrigued by the iconic Kansas tornado. This is the connection with the Kansas Midwest to show the dynamic movement of hair and the tornado with a different medium and smaller size. This is a mixed medium of Kansas prairie. I chose the hay bale not only refers to the rural feel to it, but also serve as a traditional format of scrolls. And the horizontal composition really show the openness and the flatness of Kansas prairie. When the wind blows, the prairie grass looks like a black ocean and also like a hair current. Another example of, Flint Hills, I called this series called the Flint Hairs. When you see the details, you'll see actually all the images covered with the strings of hair, whether it's flat, like the top of my hair on the left, or can be like a stand-up hair, almost like a male and female body braided together on the right to show the perspective from foreground to background. Wheat field, I call the braid fields, is also Kansas inspired work. I also see water and hair share similarities and qualities. When you have a tangled hair, it can be dangerous. The smooth hair can calm your mind and body, just like an up and down moment in life. This piece also inspired by the famous Japanese woodblock prints of Big Wave. I'm also interested in the relationship between illusion and reality. From distance, viewers see as a wave, but once they get closer, they discovered actually the details covered with the strings of hair. So I'm very interested in that relationship, how to find a balance between the two images and make them into a cohesive one. These show you the process of charcoal drawing. Because of my training in fine style ink painting, that allowed me to work with large scale without, get dirty on a smudge of the surface. Very similar to the ink painting process. The only difference is one with the white medium, the other is dry medium. But you can see the images really build up with the layers of charcoal. This is also water-inspired work called Waterfall. I spent 6 months in 2019 working on this large installation. It's a site-specific work for the Milan Rural Palace. There are 6 invited Chinese artists to do the show there. Each artist has one individual room. It's almost like 6 mini solo shows. And the theme has to do with, nature and also calligraphy with the ink medium on Alcantara material, which was my first time doing the collaboration with Milan-based textile company. I created 8 pieces total, each 5 feet by 30 feet long, double-sided, so it's 4 pairs. Front are 4 different view of waterfall, and the back side is black fabric with white ink of calligraphy. The content of the calligraphy is based on a poem, famous poem from Tang Dynasty, has to do with how to view waterfall. So the content and image are related. You can see the example of me working up and down. Very physically involved work. Now I want to talk about my current show at the Nerman Museum called Extensions. Here is the gallery view of my current show. This series I did during the pandemic. It reflects my concern and expression about the critical and important experience and events had happened during the pandemic. For example, Black Lives Matters in global COVID that affect people's life. During the lockdown, many people have let their hair grow longer, serve as a black mask or scarves. So to me, these become the hairstyle of new icon of pandemic time. And during this difficult time, many people have to, find a balance and reset their priorities. For me, for example, I have been doing meditation to help me to find a focus. Just like this, yin and yang balance out, and also black and white color refers to the time, like a day and night. These also inspired from my childhood memories of looking at Chinese revolutionary posters. You have the Rising Fist to show the support for Black Lives Matter movements. During the lockdown, we have to keep social distancing, but there's a strong need for connection and love between lovers and family members. Also, during this crazy time, during the twisted world, I have been looking and thinking about Middle Eastern women in Afghanistan and also developing countries in South America. Many girls in the rural areas don't have access to internet. They couldn't join the Zoom class. They basically spend most of the time at home doing a household work to help the mothers. I have created more than 30 pieces. The first few slices you see is at the current show at the Nerman. I also have 25 pieces from this series gonna be showing at the Hall Contemporary. So this is an example of, ink on large fabric and small charcoal framed on paper, and also small ink on xuan paper, the rice paper. So you are welcome to stop by to see both shows. I'm also honored and fortunate to have this great space for the next 3 years. I'm excited to make more large installation work and also looking forward to finish the work for the new Kansas City Airport project. Thank you. If you want to see more of my work, you can always visit my website or go to the Nerman and Hall Gallery to see my current work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hong. I'm so excited. I have some questions that I'm going to start with, and then you in the audience, feel free to start putting questions in the Q&A, and we can get to those after we get through some of these questions I have with Hong. I love seeing your work. I mean, of course, we were sad we couldn't be in the museum because of the weather today, but thank you so much for showing us images so that everyone can see the context. And everyone, I highly encourage you to go to the Nerman and see the wonderful Kansas Focus Gallery. All right, you talked today and you've talked before about how unforgiving this medium is for artwork. Why are you drawn to a format that allows for no mistakes?
I think I love this medium because I also had the opportunity to study this medium at an early age as a young girl, from my parents who practiced and taught traditional Chinese fine style ink medium. And I became good at it. And later I went to the Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing, studied under the best teacher, and I became better control with the medium. Also, I kind of enjoy the process to see the work, how it start from beginning to finish. Even though during the practice, I have made many mistakes, but I always learn from that mistakes. As a Chinese ink painter, you have to learn both style, freestyle and fine style, but I prefer the fine style. Yeah.
Makes sense. Awesome.
It's very meditative.
Right. I've seen you online. Yes.
Yeah, and give me a lot of patience to do it.
Awesome. Okay, much of your work focuses on your identity as a woman, a sister, a mother. Why is this such a powerful theme in your work?
I think it has a lot to do with the natural connection with my family. I have two sisters and mom who are all artists. We share same interests, and both my two sisters and I have had long hair, which show the feminine beauty and the power at the same time. And my daughter also has the long hair, and she loves art. I have, been teaching her how to paint and draw, so it's very natural connection with my work.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mhm.
When I watched your recent presentation at Harvard, I could see some of your work hanging behind you in your studio that day.
Mhm.
Now some of those same pieces are on display at the Nerman. And of course, you showed everyone your piece that's in the Harvard Museum with that wonderful young girl standing in front of it. So what is it like to part with your works either permanently or temporarily?
That's a good question. Well, for me, most important is the making process. So I enjoy to see how the work finished from beginning to the end. But once it's done, my interest kind of shift and move to a new pieces. And I'm glad to see my work that's hanging in the museum and the gallery walls in space. But I also sometimes keep pieces for myself. I think my husband is the one who had a hard time to see my work leave the house. Yeah.
I understand that. All right, so your collection that is in the Kansas Focus Gallery at the Nerman includes works you made in 2020 and 2021. So how have you experienced these last 2 years in the context of your creative process?
That's a good question. During the lockdown, I just take advantage of this time focusing on my work and making a new expressions that associate with the experience and the events that happened during the past 2 years. And I continue to use long hair to, record the changes over the time. Also, long hair to me, according to Eastern culture, it's associated with the life force, where long hair can, really show the personal expressions. I just continue to use that to express myself, that and similar to people who have experienced globally that affect people's life physically and psychologically. And there were critical events had happened. For example, Black Lives Matters, anti-Asian hates, and global pandemic, those events really, concerns me and create anxieties. I just wanted to use my art, continue to express myself and show my desire for equity and social justice.
Wonderful. Why did you title this show Extensions?
First of all, I think about extension as a hair extension. It's like a continued theme of my hair work, but also think about the additional encounters, additional things had happened during the pandemic. So it's also my to add actual expression from my work. It's very natural evolution of my work. So extensions actually has a double meaning. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay, what does it mean to you to be considered a Kansas artist? Is that an identity you embrace? And how do you think about Kansas in your work?
I'm very proud to become to be a Chinese American in Kansas. You know why? Because a lot of the nature inspired work came from after I moved to Kansas. And my career also developed here. And I love the nature of Kansas. I love the beautiful sky and changing clouds every day and the openness and the nice people and the supportive community. I think that explained well. I all translate that into my work. So even though I live in Kansas, I got the opportunity to show my work everywhere, across the country and across the globe. So how great is that?
I think it's wonderful. Okay, so my last question for you before we go to the audience questions is, of course, Johnson County Community College is a school, right, for students, and we have fine arts programs and other programs for artists at our college. So can you share with our students how you have made a career in art?
I think the bottom line is just work and paint for yourself, not for the market. Like my mentor who recently died, Professor Thibault said, don't worry about finding a gallery. First, you have to keep painting, have a good body of work, then gallery will find you, not the other way around. So just keep doing what you love, but you have to keep in mind that being an artist is a difficult journey. It's not easy, especially for female artists. Many female artists never have their first major museum solo show until their age of 60 and 70. So you have to keep good with your artwork at the same time, keep healthy to be able to reach that age to be recognized. Otherwise, you just, I don't know. I think the art world is getting better for female artists, but it's still a tough business, I would say. 99% of artists couldn't make. Only 1%. Can you be the 1%? If you know that early, you have the gut to pursue your dream, then go for it. Otherwise, change different career.
Good, awesome. All right, well, I'm going to move to our audience questions now. So there's lots of comments about how grateful people are, how inspirational your work is, and how much we love it. So here's one. Hong, we love your attraction to apparent opposites, light, dark, micro, macro, tragedy, comedy. What about duality or fusion?
You can see the duality in my work and the fusion, like the combination of food and hair. It's also influenced by American pop art with the Chinese twist. The slideshow I showed you tonight didn't show the full body of my work. If you go to my website, you can see there's a lot of work that has this cultural duality in it. Even though I'm using, Chinese format and the medium, but I tend to work with different format like installation and concept that mainly globally based and universal like hair. So it's not always contrast. I wanted to create something for the audience who can appreciate, no matter they know Chinese culture or without any background, but still can appreciate.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, what do you miss about China besides family? And do you feel like your art encapsulates emotions related to your feelings about home or related to emotions in general?
What I miss a lot about China now is the food. You can get authentic food in China. No, I think the more time I live in the US, especially Kansas, I love the fresh air. I love the quietness. Every time I go to China, it's just so crazy. So many people, and they just keep adding more and more buildings and a lot of places that I remembered when I was a college student. It's all gone. It's not there anymore. So for me, it's like revisiting the place. I feel familiar, but not familiar at the same time. And the second question is, what do you?
How do you feel like your art encapsulates maybe these emotions or other emotions?
I think my work is very personal and at the same time also universal. And the emotion part, I try to use my own experience to reach out to broader audience. Yeah, I start out with the first series that a lot of family connection, because when I got here, I got homesick with the lack of English. I wanted to talk more with my mother tongue. That's the strong connection when I first came here. I wanted to, I miss my home, miss my family. But the more time I live in the US, I kind of adopted this new environment and feel more comfortable living in the US. Even though every time I go back to China, I have to readjust. But I don't know. I don't see myself as a pure Chinese or pure American. I'm kind of in the middle because I spent half of my lifetime, 25 years, grew up in China, and spent another 25 years here in the US. Yeah. So a lot of work actually from my life experience, both in China and in the US. The current work is more dealing with universal, that everybody experienced the global pandemic. I tend to work to that direction without too much of a Chinese influence or elements to become more dominant in my work. I wanted to become less and more universal themed that everybody can relate to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wonderful. Okay, so how wonderful that your work will be in the new airport. Will that work be your largest yet, given the space?
Well, not the largest, I would say, but each artist gave 20 feet cross space. So each artist has the same space of the wall. So some artists only create one single piece. Other artists showed multiple pieces. And I decided to show two horizontal pieces. I just feel like they look great and also Kansas inspired work.
Yeah, I love that, especially since it's in Missouri. So I love it even more. Okay, you have such a strong voice in your work. Who are some artists that inspire you?
Good questions. Since this month is the Women's Month, I will just say some inspirational female artists that I like. I like Anne Hamilton's work. I like Kara Walker's black and white paper cuts and large installation. I also love Leah Silmans, who does a very realistic, waters, drawings, and also paintings in realistic style. And I also love surrealistic artists' work, and I love the Japanese woman who represents Japanese pavilion in the 2015 Biennale in Venice. I went to see her work, use a lot of red threads combined with found objects of sheep and shoes. I don't know how to pronounce her full name, but I really love her work. And Rachel Ritterfield, who's an English artist, made a mold of monumental sculptures and casting. So even though I'm a painter, but I really love three-dimensional work. I also love the female painter Nicole. Nicole was her name something last name. I saw her work at the Venice Biennale. She's a great painter. Yeah. So I always have a hard time, remember people Americans last name, but first.
I know.
I'm not name dropper person, but I can visualize the memories, their artwork.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so let me check here. Let me see some of these other ones. Oh, Nicole Eisenman, one of our colleagues.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, is there any cultural significance to the rice paper or the canvases that you use? And how do you decide which is best for you?
That's a good question. Rice paper actually officially more appropriate term is xuan paper. It's a handmade and organic process of using, plants and trees tissues to put together. The process is actually designed for ink painting, so that can keep the translucency of the water base. Also good for mounding, which requires another professional training and knowledge I didn't even address in my talk. And canvas, you have, as an artist, you have to be able to practice with as many medium as you can to find out the limitation and also uniqueness of each medium. So I was able to practice with both and find out what oil can do and what, ink painting cannot do. Ink painting on rice paper is mainly designed for Chinese architecture format, very intimate and ancient Chinese household that will look very good with the scrolls. But nowadays, with the modern look, you can mount them in on the frame or panels to show more like Western influence oil painting on canvas, especially large format, which designed well with a giant gallery space in American, especially during the 1945 American Expressionism. Those giant pieces is really designed for American industrial, the high ceiling of white box galleries and high museums, high ceiling museums. In China, before I came to the US, I rarely see a mural-sized painting before. Only murals on wall, but never see large canvas, work on canvas. Yeah,
Sure.
but yeah.
Wonderful. All right, a few things. Can you speak a little about working on fabric recently?
Yeah, that's a good question. 2019, my first experience with working with fabric, with ink. Fabrics I had with Alcantara company is almost feel like a felt, very thin felt. The absorption is different from rice paper. It absorbed stronger than rice paper. So when I apply the ink, you have to apply several times to be able to stand on the surface of the fabric. But I kind of like the effect because it allowed me to do a similar with the fine style ink painting because the process already requires many layers of application. It's almost like working with the fabric. But another positive side with the fabric is, working with the ink on rice paper is unforgiving. But working with fabric, sometimes you can use the charcoal to quickly draw a composition, and then you can still, without worry too much about the mistakes you made. So in another word, fabrics is more stronger and flexible than rice paper. Fabric you can sew, you can fold, you can turn into different form or mount it. So and you don't have to worry about smudges. You can even sit down or touch it instead of seeing the charcoal on paper or ink on rice paper. You always wanted to protect it with the frame or glass, but with the fabric you can just freely hand them. So that solve all those concerning questions.
Sounds liberating. Yeah.
Liberating. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Is it possible to purchase any of your new works, including those ones that are at the Nerman?
Yeah. Just talk to the Nerman or contact my gallery at the hall.
Okay, and that's on your website too. I've seen that on there if people want to look for the Hoffer collection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So many expressions of gratitude and thanks. I think we might have completed all of our questions, which is perfect because we are right at the time when we were planning on wrapping up. So I just want to say thank you so much, Hong, for being with us today. Again, I'm so sorry that we couldn't be together physically. Oh, yes, people were asking if you could say your website. What's your website's name?
www.hongchunzhang, my full name, HONGCHUNZHANG, altogether, .com.
Yes, yes. And I've been there. It's quite good. I highly recommend. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm sorry the weather had made this difficult, and I encourage everyone to go see Hong's work at the Nerman. And, there's other opportunities like at the Haw Gallery and other places. And we are excited to see the work you're going to do in that 3-year residency at Studio Ink. So any other parting comments?
I wanted to add one more thing.
Oh, yes.
The group show focusing on Asian Americans in the Kansas region at the Nelson Atkins Museum will open this October and runs to next spring, 2023. So you're all welcome to see.
Oh, so someone was asking, so that's the Nelson Atkins. That's going to be in October. So one other question is, where do we go? Oh, to see Hong's work at JCCC. The Nerman Museum of Contemporary Art is on JCCC's campus. I think it would be fair to say it's on the northeast side of campus. It's very publicly facing. You can see it, and you can always check out jccc.edu for more information. And I think it's nerman.org. Am I right? And you can, if you need specific access there, parking is free at JCCC. And I believe NurmanMuseum.org, yes. And I believe, if I'm correct, that the hours are Tuesdays through Saturdays. Am I correct on that one? I think closed on Mondays and Sundays.
We're open Sunday as well.
Oh, wonderful. I'm wrong. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. This is a wonderful program. Thank you, Hung, for sharing and being so generous with all of us today. Oh, yes, Nerman Museum Education on YouTube, and they are open on Sundays, nermanmuseum.org. Oh, and I highly recommend following Hung on Instagram. You can also see some wonderful works and learn about what's coming up on there, too. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.